Is it just me, or are Scuf controllers seemingly everywhere these days? Most video game YouTubers have a 60-second segment talking about how they're sponsored by Scuf. Which reminds me, today's video is sponsored... No, I'm totally joking. We don't have any sponsors, right? Oh, maybe just roll the intro. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of the extremely hyped Scuf controllers versus the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. I've used Elite controllers for a long time and never bought into the Scuf hype. I don't even know if I'll keep these controllers, to be honest. Here's what you can expect from this video. I'll give ratings of each controller based off things like comfort, inputs, battery life, software and mapping, and aesthetic and customization. After I've shown you the scores, I'll give you my thoughts on what types of gamers I think would benefit from each of these controllers. And last but not least, I'll tell you which controller that I personally picked as my top pick. If you'd like to skip around to certain parts of the video, you can use these chapters below. Before we jump into things, I do want to take a quick minute to ask you for some help. YouTube is currently making money off of your time spent watching this video. They run ads on my videos and they make money from them. And unfortunately, I don't see a single cent of that money. If you can help me by subscribing, I can start to get my fair share of that money once I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Subscribing is totally free and it won't change anything on your end, but it could really change things for the better for me. If you enjoy this video, or if you're just feeling generous today, consider clicking or tapping that subscribe button for me. Can't thank you enough for that. Okay, enough about all that. I've been using controllers since, well, this and this. I have a ton of experience on controllers, at least 30 years worth. Controller has always been and will always be my method of input. I tried mouse and keyboard for like 6 months and that just did not go well. Oh boy. Cool. So as a self-proclaimed expert on controllers, let's take a look at the Scuf Envision Pro, the Scuf Instinct Pro, and the Elite Series 2, and how they stack up against each other. I only tested with Xbox and PC controllers because I don't have a PlayStation. I've actually never owned a Sony console in my entire life. I don't have any experience on that platform, so I left it out. Sorry to all you Sony fans out there. Wait, before you leave, I think PlayStation gamers will still find this video very insightful and beneficial to choosing their controllers, so stick around. I tested the controllers on both Xbox and PC, or at least I tested them where I could. More on that later. For the games I tested with was Apex Legends, Off the Grid, Call of Duty, Hogwarts Legacy, and Cyberpunk. Now that you know the details, let's get into the results. We'll start with the controller I've been using for a little over a year now. The Elite Series 2. I actually have 3 of these, a Series 1 that got stick drift and 2 Series 2s. I ended up buying a second one because I wanted to go with more of a custom aesthetic. I've loved this controller for a little over a year now, so it's hard to beat. Here's how my ratings broke down for this controller. The rubber on the sides and the front feel really good and grippy. Paddles are all easily accessible and the buttons are very easy to reach. The controller's very heavy though, at least compared to others. This could be a bad thing for some gamers. It's not a huge issue for me, but it's why this is a 4 and not a 5. 4 out of 5. Unfortunately, the Elite has been plagued with issues like stick drift for a long time. My custom controller hasn't had any stick drift, but the top right bumper has always been a bit sticky. The usual satisfying click is gone and it doesn't depress as much as it should. The paddles are really easy to reach, but can make gripping the controller a little bit awkward, so I usually take the bottom 2 out. And that way I have a little bit better grip in my controller for when I'm playing things like Call of Duty or Apex Legends and I need a good grip. I really like the control sticks and how you can easily swap them in and out, but one thing I don't love is how rigid and snappy they feel out of the box. You can change the tension in them and it helps a lot. However, I've found that I have to really tweak the game sensitivity settings to get this all to feel just right. For all those reasons, the input gets a 3 out of 5. I never have to charge this thing, and that's after 3 to 4 hour gaming sessions multiple nights a week. The battery on this thing feels top tier. Easy 5. Elite Series 2 has its own software for both customizing and mapping the controller and updating it on both Xbox and PC. It does all of that really well, and the only place it gets a little funky is the mapping. The UI and UX is a bit weird, and you kind of have to figure it out. This is par for the course with controller software. All in all, it's better than most, and I think a 4 out of 5 for this category is fair. I love all the different options that Xbox has given me for customizing the controller aesthetic. They have tons of colors, and even the hardware has color choices like the thumbsticks. You can really customize the controller to your heart's content, and it makes for some really impressive designs. And mine is no exception. It looks great. Total score, 4.2. Now let's take a look at what I would consider Elite's direct competitor from Scuf, the Scuf Instinct Pro. The controller actually feels fantastic in my hands. Something about the rubberized grip only being on the back of the controller felt better here than the entire bottom portion of the controller having grip on it from what it was like on the Elite. It's just the right size for me too. I don't feel like I'm struggling to reach anything, and my movements across the controller feel fluid as I play. The weight feels perfect, it's not too light, it's not too heavy. I couldn't find any weaknesses, so this is a 5 out of 5. This is where the Scuf Instinct Pro really excels and where it absolutely blew my mind. I don't know what they've done with these buttery smooth control sticks, but it's incredible. Whereas the Elite felt more rigid and snappy in the sticks, even after adjusting them physically on the controller a little bit, the Scuf just feels so natural and smooth out of the box. There was absolutely no adjustment period of any kind for this controller for me. Micro adjustments to my aim have never felt better. The paddles are also really impressive. You only need your middle finger on each side to press all 4 buttons, and that allows you to have a better grip on the controller without accidentally pressing any paddles. The paddles are really easy to reach and activate. I love using all 4 of the paddles on this controller. The triggers have an incredibly satisfying click to them when you activate the instant trigger. It's pretty much the same exact sound as a mouse. This is a 5. I almost gave it a 6. Scuf has perfected controller inputs. Unfortunately, this controller doesn't come with a lithium-ion battery that you can just charge when it's running low. It takes AA's, and you'll need a couple in your desk to be ready for when the controller dies. I found that a bit surprising, and I guess it had to cut costs somewhere. Some players might actually prefer this, because when your controller dies, you can just easily swap in some AA's and get back into the game. So not a huge deal, but I would have preferred a chargeable battery. There also doesn't seem to be any kind of battery indicator anywhere on this controller. I've looked through the manual, I've looked online, I can't find it. If you know where it is, can you please comment in the chat and let me know? I still can't seem to find it. Still, this controller lasts a very long time on AA batteries. I just wish it came with a rechargeable battery. 3 out of 5. Here's the best part about this controller. There is no software. You don't have to stop what you're doing in game, open up some clunky ass software to change your paddles mid-game, and I love that. All you do is hold down the profile button for 3 seconds, press the paddle button and the button you want to assign to the paddle, and then press the profile button again, and that's it. You're done. Your controller paddles are mapped and you're good to go. You can save up to 3 different profiles of configurations for the paddles on this controller. This is great for when you're switching games. For example, if I'm playing COD and I want to switch to Hogwarts Legacy, I can just press the profile button and switch to a different configuration. The only downside to this is that you can't map all of the buttons. You can only remap the paddles. Not a huge issue, but I guess that's what the downside is to not having software to map your buttons with. Another thing that blew my mind is that this controller syncs and works with the Xbox wireless adapter. I already had that adapter from using my Elite, and so I thought I'd try it and see if it works, and surprise, it does. For $18, you just made your controller work for both PC and Xbox. This controller gets a solid 5 out of 5 for software in that. The controllers themselves look really nice from Scuf. I don't love the branding that's kind of all over the controller, but you can fix that by getting one of the many different faceplates that are available online. It's really easy. You just pop off the magnetic faceplate and put on whatever you want. My buddy actually got a white controller and he wanted the gray, so we're just gonna trade faceplates and I'll get what I want. And so will he. And that's not all. You can also customize the grips and the sticks. Grips and sticks. My only complaint is the lack of palette. Your choices here are black, blue, red, and gray for most things. I wish Scuf could include more accent colors like a mint green, peak, yellow, lilac. The colors feel pretty basic. Once they introduce more colors, it's a perfect 5, but for now, it's a 4. Total score, 4.4. All right, last but not least, let's take a look at the latest and greatest from Scuf, the Envision Pro. I should mention that this controller is for PC only. It's included because the other controllers can also be played on PC. Just know that if you get this controller, you can only play it on PC and you cannot play it on Xbox or PlayStation. The controller itself feels similar to the Instinct Pro, but just a bit bigger. It felt a lot less like a glove to me because I do have smaller hands, but it didn't really affect my experience in game. I can still easily reach the buttons and it feels comfortable. I never had any problems accidentally pressing the extra buttons on the side either, and even if I did, I could just unmap them or use the blanks that come with the controller to negate them. The grips feel a little bit more plasticky and not as rubbery, so if you're into a more rubbery, grippy feel, this might not be for you. I prefer more grippy, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Like the Scuf Instinct Pro, these inputs feel buttery smooth. One difference here is that all the buttons have this super satisfying clicky input like the other controllers' triggers. Even the top paddles on the back have the clicky feel to it, and I love it. My only gripe with the controller inputs is that one that's super personal to me, and that's the alignment of the sticks. The slightly larger controller plus the position of the sticks made the controller feel slightly off for me. I didn't feel as comfortable as the Instinct Pro. I think that's because my thumb does more work to get to the other stick over here rather than being closer where the D-pad is. This could just be me. After all, I have 30 years of Xbox controller layout baked into my brain and my hands. Other than that, it's perfect. Seriously. The G keys, which I'll get to in a second, the extra buttons on the sides, the clickety-clack. Are you kidding me? This controller is nearly perfected. I gave it a 5 because I feel like my issues are personal, and I'm sure if I play with this controller for a few more weeks, I'll probably feel better. Unlike the Instinct Pro, this controller comes with a built-in rechargeable battery. The controller lasted me a good amount of time, and it took me well over a week for this controller to die. And that's after spending a lot of time configuring it on my PC. You can also see what your controller's battery level is in the notification area on your PC. However, you will have to be running iQOO to see that battery level. There's also a tiny little lightning icon that flashes when your battery's low. Overall, no complaints here. 5 out of 5. So I'm gonna go ahead and state the obvious. The controller uses iQOO, and that's gonna be a huge bummer to most people. Me? I had no issues with it. The mapping UX is a bit weird and it took me a bit to figure it out, but once I did, it was really easy. You can map all the buttons and you even have 5 extra buttons on the controller to map. The coolest thing about this is that if you're a streamer or a content creator, you can use them as a stream deck. The Envision software will instantly recognize your controller and give you options for the buttons. Last but not least, you actually don't need to run iQOO to use this controller. With the controller plugged in and on USB mode, you can save profiles to the controller. Map your paddles, choose your lighting, adjust your sticks, your vibration, and then just save it to the profile on the controller. Unplug your controller and switch over to wireless mode, and now your controller can switch between different onboard profile. No iQOO needed. This is a huge win for the controller, considering most people do not want to run iQOO on their PC. Weird UX aside, the options for using the controller with or without iQOO is a home run. The G keys, this is great. 5 out of 5. This controller is definitely beautiful. I really like how it's got the light gray with the white on the controller that I got. The white buttons are actually a really nice touch too. Just like the Instinct Pro, you can buy faceplates for this and customize the rubber grips and sticks to more further customize your controller. Color options are still somewhat limited though, so 4 out of 5. Total score for this bad boy is 4.6. So there it is. There's my scores for each controller and how they compare to each other. Now let's talk about who will get the most from each of these controllers. For the Elite Series 2, I think this is a great controller for someone who plays mostly RPGs or racing games. The aesthetic and customization is great for those who want controllers to be a certain color combinations, and the paddles are really good if you don't need to like really grip the controller. The sticks are also less of an issue when you're not worrying about fine-tuning your aim. This is great for both the Xbox and PC gamer using an Xbox dongle. For the Instinct Pro, this one is for all you FPS fans out there. I think this is the sweet spot for those who play games like Call of Duty or Apex Legends. The paddles are so effortless and they don't get in the way of your grip and help you really finesse your aim and movement while you play. The sticks are crazy smooth and you don't need to tweak a bunch of sense settings on the actual game with this controller. Another great controller that's good for both Xbox and PC gamers with the help of a dongle. Last but not least, the Envision Pro. This controller is a powerhouse. I think it's really good for just about any game, but more specifically, I think it's good for a streamer. Being able to use the G keys as an extra stream deck is insanely cool. You get all the benefits of the great inputs for FPS games and so many different paddles and buttons for RPGs and even cozy games. If you're only playing PC games, this controller is a no-brainer. At the beginning of the video, I told you that PlayStation gamers can still find value out of this review, and here's why. I've been an Xbox Elite fanboy for years. Scuf changed that and beat one of the best controllers on the market for me. If they converted me, they can probably convert you with their Scuf Reflex as well. If you've used the Reflex controller from Scuf, let everyone know in the comments what you think about it. And finally, time to tell you my favorite controller out of all three. If you guessed the Envision Pro, you're wrong. My favorite ended up being the Instinct Pro. If the Envision were able to be used on Xbox, it would be a slam dunk winner. However, limiting the controller to only PC was a huge bummer to me. While I love the G keys, I don't really need it because I already have a really good Stream Deck, and I also have an Elgato foot pedal, so I get the same benefits from the Envision on the Instinct with the added bonus of being able to play both games on console and PC. For those reasons, the Instinct Pro is my favorite controller. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I hope you found it helpful when you're planning your next controller purchase. Hit me up with your questions in the comments if you have any. And if you've made it this far, why not go ahead and subscribe? I have a lot of videos coming that you're going to love, and don't you want to see more of this face? As always, thanks so much for supporting the channel and watching the video. I hope you love others today, and even more importantly, I really hope you love yourself. See you on the next one.